ladies. I am super excited to be live tonight as this is part two to our conversation on sex and relationships and dreams. As you can see, we have Dr. Deborah Lukovich with us again. And of course, always Alexis, beautiful Alexis, my co-host. So welcome in, ladies. Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm great. My Professor Langley, my cat, is rolling over and meowing, so maybe he'll be part of the conversation.
Right? That would be
Cat
awesome.
energy.
Yes, I love it. How are you doing, Alexis?
I'm doing okay. I'm very tired today. I did not sleep. I told my husband, I was like, I slept in, well, I shouldn't even say slept, but I rested basically the entire night in a hypnagogic state. Like there was no actual entering the sleep. It was really weird. And so I'm really tired today. And but I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to continue our conversation. Last chat we had was just phenomenal and I'm so excited.
So you're automatically in a lower level of consciousness because you're tired.
I'm so tired right now, but I'm holding on.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. Physically though, my right shoulder is on fire and I've been telling myself that I just put on some red tiger balm, but it's like a strained muscle and like I was journaling early today and with typing too, like I had to take breaks and it happens every so often because I'm always writing, I'm always typing.
Mm.
And so I put some red tiger balm. So all of this is kind of lit up right now. And I know there's also like a metaphysical meaning that I'm going to look
Mm.
into because I've actually had like I guess it's a strained or just like a weak shoulder for at least 6 months. So I'm like, all right, what's going on here? But anyways, I
Mm.
feel good. Aside from that, I feel pretty good. I'm really excited about this conversation. Deb, do you want to introduce yourself again for those who haven't watched the first?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me back. I had so much fun last time. So I'm Deborah Lukovich, and I have a PhD in depth psychology, which is the study of the unconscious. You can think Carl Jung. He's one of the founders of depth psychology. And I didn't do that until I was 48 years old. So my midlife fell apart and I answered an irrational calling to pursue a master's PhD in this field without knowing why. And I ended up living all the concepts in real time. And I didn't know what I was going to research. And I just was led to all of it. And so I went from living my life in a very masculine oriented way to having to surrender to not knowing and having no goals and being led into very awkward territory. And so now I help other people. And yeah, and since then I published a book on depth psychology called Your Soul is Talking. Are You Listening? And it teaches people how to figure out the language of their unconscious, because of course dreams is just one way that our unconscious speaks to us. And I'm about to launch the juicy part of the story in my memoir, When Sex Meets God. So I'm
Yes.
happy to talk about sex and relationships and dreams.
Yes, we're so excited to have you. And we will have the link to Deb's website in the description of this video. And if you're listening on Spotify, it's going to be in the notes for this episode. All right, so I'll get into the cosmic climate and just share with you all what is coming up right now in the dream space, how the energy within the celestial might have an impact on your dreams. And as of today, July 30th, and it hasn't quite happened yet. It actually, this transition happens at 11:57 p.m. Eastern time. And of course, like we can't really pin down
Mhm.
these transitions of the planets, but that's just to give us a marker of the transition. And so it's likely that we're already experiencing this now. But what is happening is that Venus is moving into Cancer. And we know that Cancer is an intuitive sign. It's a water sign, very emotional. It's maternal. It's feminine. It represents the mother archetype. And naturally, there is a deep connection to dreams as Cancer is ruled by the moon. And then with having Venus in Cancer, it just really like emphasizes or affirms this energy, this essence of Cancer, very, very feminine. It also brings this soft nature to the energy to Cancer, and harmonizes wherever it's showing up in your life. And you can go into the details in your birth chart, but as far as dreams, you may have themes of harmony within your dreams, or coming into union, or guidance on how to find balance. Also, in alignment, perfect alignment with this chat, there may be more dreams regarding relationships coming forth. Of course, feminine maternal energy is going to be really present. So that's just something to keep in mind if you desire. And this transit spans for about a month. So we'll have a nice time with this. This is going to be so nice with this transit. So the second transit is very short window, and this is Mercury retrograde cazimi in Leo. So Mercury is currently retrograde in Leo and has been for about 2 weeks. So the Mercury cazimi is the moment in which Mercury is in alignment with the sun. And when it's in this exact alignment, this is considered by ancient astrologers to be an auspicious alignment, a time of basically, again, a time of balance and harmony, and a time in which we can access divine intelligence. This is a good time to meditate, or to do dream incubation, or ask for healing or messages through your dreams. And so this takes place on July 31st. So if you're fortunate and you're here live, like Mary is right now, hi Mary, thanks for being here. You can dream incubate, set an intention for your dream space tonight, or invite in the healing energy. And with it in Leo, there definitely is a focus around your identity, your creative expression, your sense of worth, and your creative energy. I think I said that. So that's also right in alignment with this conversation tonight, especially with Deborah's perspective on sex and dreams, which we'll definitely touch on that again. So that is the cosmic climate for the moment at this time this week with this chat. And Alexis, do you want to share an update on or announcement?
I was like, an update.
You're like, wait, what?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you guys know, Urania, myself, and Deborah are dream experts on the developing app Dreamigos. You can find this on the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. It's a wonderful dream recording app. You have multiple ways to record your dreams. You have the option to keep them private, but you also have the option to publish them to the Dreamline, where you can have experts like all of us come and comment with guidance or interpretation. And another aspect that we love is that if you sign up today, you get to be a part of our monthly free dream circle. So go download that today.
Awesome. Thank you.
Nice promo.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
Perfectly said. And the last announcement is on August 10th, 1 p.m. Eastern time. I'm going to be teaching a class on overcoming nightmares and anxious dreams. It's a virtual class via Ritual Craft School. And I'm prone to having anxious dreams. Like if I'm half the time of I'm having anxious dreams essentially. And so I am going to share my practices on how I navigate those type of dreams. Also, I will share on the significance of nightmares, and they're really one of my favorite type of dreams because they really provide you with accelerated healing and a lot of clarity and insight of where you are now and what's coming up for you. And so if you're interested in taking this class, you can learn more info and register via the link in the description of this video. And also the link for the Dreamigos app will be in the description of this video. All right, so now to the juicy stuff. I'm so excited. There were questions from part 1 or that I had when we met the first time that I did not get to ask. So I'm really excited to ask those questions. And for those of you listening live, definitely feel free to say hello and also share your questions, your comments about our topic tonight, if you would like us to share and answer those questions. And yeah, so just to revisit part one, just so we can kind of set the tone here. Part one, we live streamed on June 11th of 2025. It is episode 32 on Spotify. And so that, I mean, wow, that was like a month and a half ago. It feels like a little bit longer. But it was such a great conversation. And some of the points that I enjoyed that we discussed was, of course, defining sex and dreams. And we focused on the emotions provoked from sexual dreams, which were like embarrassment, shame, and guilt. And then we talked about exes and dreams and what that might mean, along with, people that you are close to, and how they show up in your dreams and what that represents. And then my very favorite one was the active imagination. So that was a way in which to, revisit dreams and, possibly engage maybe the dream people or bring your dream to a conclusion if you can. So is there anything that either you, Alexis, or Deborah want to share on anything from part one, or just what I pointed out just now?
I thought that was a good summary of it. I mean, we did talk about how, the basics of when people show up in our dreams, that it's really not about them. So initially we're like, "Oh, cringe. Oh my God, that person showed up in my dream." And also, I think one of the things I emphasized was that when somebody shows up and there's like a ew, ick, like association to it, that sometimes whatever that trait is that we think is negative in them is actually our unconscious wanting us to be like that in our own version, in a healthier version. But sometimes the unconscious needs to bring something really dramatic to get your attention. So I think like people have a hard time with that. Like, oh, I'm like that, or I'm supposed to be like that. And it's not that, it's sort of like the underlying trait.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say one of the things I did want to point out that kind of doesn't really have much to do with the topic, but I'm sure it influenced our dreams. All three of us were not home. Well, maybe I'm thinking that
Were you home?
I came home for the night, but I was gone.
Yeah.
Like I came home briefly and then left and went back to where I was, but I did not sleep home at all that week.
Mhm.
You definitely weren't. Deb, I don't know if you had left
I
yet.
was about to leave
Okay.
on my like 5 week trip
Yeah.
back home, like a
Right.
couple days later. I'm
Yeah.
gonna let my cat out.
Oh,
I'll
yeah,
be
yeah,
No,
yeah.
right
no,
back.
go ahead.
Definitely. Yeah, I think I want to revisit, the looking at especially the 1X, which I'm going to share an update on a dream that I shared in the first part. But essentially, I do want to go back and look at my ex. I think you mentioned like what three like
Mhm.
qualities that come to mind right away of that person, like listing that and reflecting on that. And yeah, so I definitely want to do that. I think that's really helpful. I haven't yet, but now having this conversation, I'm like, okay, I can do that. But then
Oh.
also after what I share, I'm like, I don't know if I really need to. Maybe it has resolved itself, and I'm not trying to open up anything else right now. So
Yeah. And the only thing I would say is like not even like qualifying it as qualities, just like what three words or phrases come up? Because sometimes an association could be a memory.
right. Okay. So three
Just
associations.
three things. Like when I think of Rick, this comes up.
And it could be, of course, those of you listening, it doesn't have to be an ex. I focus in on that because that's what's most dramatic for me most
Yeah.
times. But it could be, a family member or a close friend, especially if they're recurring in your dream often. That's when you really want to dig into it, because those recurring dreams, it's like your psyche is really getting your attention. Like there's something here that
Yeah.
is, yeah,
Like,
really important.
hello, come on. Like, come on. You're not getting it yet. Well, I'll tell you, during my midlife unraveling and after I got divorced, 1 month during this phase of my unraveling and reconstruction, my former husband showed up in my dream 10 times in a month.
That's wild.
Crazy. Yeah.
Did you get the guidance out of that, the message?
Oh yes. I mean, I don't remember at this time because this was probably 6 years ago. But yes. And also they were many I think there were two phases where he showed up a lot. And one actually had to do with we were always in a car and always driving, and he was driving. So it was like, oh, I fell asleep and or the brakes didn't work or we lost the kids or whatever. And then the second bunch of dreams were all kind of sexual in nature. And what was funny is I went and had drinks with my friend. I'm like, I got to debrief this. I go, oh my God, I just had a dream having sex with my ex-husband. And she goes, well, was it good? And I'm like, no, oh my God, it was annoying. I was on top and I kept falling asleep and I had to finish. And I was like, oh, and she goes, finish what? And I go, good question. There it is. That's the metaphor. What in my life is annoying that I have to complete, even though I don't want to? So
Yeah, that's good to know. So I'm gonna share about the update of the dream that I had since we're talking about exes and dreams. And yeah, so in part one, I had a very fresh dream. Like I think it was the night before, or maybe like 2 days before we're gonna have our chat.
of
And so
course.
essentially that in that dream, my ex that shows up in my dream all the time. It's again, like it's so annoying. It's frustrating. I'm like, why are you in my dreams? So in this dream, he was really excited because we were having a baby. And it was so confusing because one, whenever he's in my dreams, I'm always conscious enough to recall like the past trauma, like of breaking up. And sometimes even in the dreams where we are like back together, everything's great, or maybe nothing happened and we're just still together, there's still a conscious awareness. It's like, but this happened. And so that was present. And in this particular dream, it was like we both had the acknowledgement in the dream that, we've been through this, we broke up, and then we ended up getting back together and then had a baby, or we're having a baby. But, it wasn't like I was actually pregnant in the dream, but I was so confused because I was under the impression that that wasn't possible. Um, even if we were together for whatever reason, I was like, no, like we decided not to. So your interpretation, Deb, was that basically something new and something unexpected is coming, like in relation to the union, so to speak, or just something, is new, is coming up, surprising. So what had happened, because that was so on point, and this was as of maybe 3 weeks ago, I am a very organized, and I'm kind of just OCD about like notifications. Like all my email, like I don't have any number, like account of unread emails. Even if I'm not going to read them, I just like delete them. I have to have everything clear. I don't like notifications. So on my computer, because I have a MacBook, like my text was basically, it was like, oh, you have a new message or you have an unread message. And I'm like going through it. I'm like, I don't have an unread. I'm like, where is this unread message? And so I'm like, oh, well, this is a perfect time to just go through my history of text messages and delete these old messages from people I don't talk to. Well, I had deleted my ex boyfriend, this ex that's been showing up in my dreams. I deleted his contact. And then I also have a new number. And so I'm going through and deleting, and I get down to old conversations from like 2018. And there was numbers there that I didn't have saved. And I'm like looking at them, and they were pictures. And there was two numbers, and it was him and his brother. So it was a group chat. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. I was like, this is his number. And I like saved it because for a while I had been on the fence about contacting him. And I did email him a couple years ago just to apologize for my role in the relationship. There was a lot of guilt there. He
Mm,
never responded to the email. This was probably like 3 years ago.
mm.
And, I wasn't really surprised. And so I'm like, well, maybe I should reach out, so I saved the number. I didn't, and I just sat with it for a bit. So anyway, 3 weeks ago, and this was probably a couple days after I found the number. 3 weeks ago, I just am like, okay, I'll just message him and see what happens. Again, not expecting a response. But my message was something like, you know, I know you probably hate me or you don't want to talk to me, but you know, I apologize for my role. I took responsibility in the ending of the relationship because it was not a great ending and I had a lot to do with that.
Mm.
But nonetheless, you know, then I, you know, just wishing him well. And a couple hours later, he actually responded and he was like, "Oh no, I don't hate you at all. I'm really actually happy to hear from you. And I think fondly of our time together. And you know, like a lot has changed and I'm in a new chapter. And basically, like I was a child then, like he was saying he was a child then. And so there was closure. And it was completely
Yeah.
surprising because like it was surprising to find the number. It was surprising that his response, like he actually responded and it wasn't a like F you, go to hell. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I didn't even think about that until I was re-listening to our chat yesterday. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is that baby. I feel like that was, you know, because
Yeah.
it was super surprising. And it definitely closed the door on that part of my life. And I felt so liberated after that conversation. I felt free and then I can move on.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, you know, you were carrying something that wasn't finished and had a little negative energy, even if it was down below. And
Mhm.
it's interesting that the dream brought it up. And, you know, I tell clients that it's the other person isn't really needed in order to like let something go because sometimes they're either a passed away or you just there's no way that's going to work if you if you address something with them directly. And then sometimes you are able to address it with them. So how I mean, wow, how Hermes, I mean, Hermes is in there, you know, communication, the
Mhm.
phone,
Yeah.
and then, you know, then so a new feeling, I guess, of liberation, a new just, oh man, that's good.
Yeah.
I like it. So yeah, so I mean, that's just a perfect example of how the dream was forward looking,
Yeah.
that it was like something is going to happen. Yeah. Oh, I love it. Thanks for sharing that.
I remember us having that conversation back and forth off, off camera and just like waiting for him to respond to you. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like I'm biting my nails, like waiting for this response.
Yeah. So it would have been interesting if he didn't respond because you had the story in your head about like how he felt. And you,
Yeah.
like you said, you were carrying this guilt. So you could have still gotten to the same place based on like just journaling about it and working through it and maybe doing a letter and a ritual or something like that. But I mean, but what a gift to like for
Yeah.
his response.
And I had been doing that. And like I've done basically sometimes I'll have conversations with people in the shower is like one of those meditative spaces
Mhm.
for me.
Yeah.
So I'll have conversations with people just energetically. Like if I feel like I can't share it with them directly, like it be
Yeah.
my mother or whoever,
Yep.
I'll share it in that way. And I'll just know I'm like, whenever they're ready to receive like the energetic impression or the message, they'll receive it when they're meant to. And I have done that with him. And I mean, who's to say that he could have received that? And so then, you know, when I reached out again, because like I said, the first time there was no response. And I don't even
Right.
know if I like checks that email anymore, but
Okay.
yeah, so it's interesting because that was major in reference to where I'm moving forward, like really just closing the chapter.
Mm.
Really was that was a benefit. So
Oh, so what, so, you know,
hmm,
then that energy is freed up for
yeah.
something.
Yes. And so I'm looking forward to seeing, you know, how that's affected in my dream space. Like he hasn't, there was one dream, he's been in my dream once after that, but I felt like it was more probably forced. It was more than
Oh,
likely just me, like maybe day residue. I don't know, but basically this was maybe a couple days after that interaction. But I
okay.
was really wanting to I was like, oh, just thinking about what is he going to show up in my dreams, like what is it going to be like moving forward, and kind of almost obsessing in a way, I'll be honest. And then he did show up in my dreams and it was like I was at home and I had looked out the back door. I like walked out in the backyard, but further back there was basically like a like not a canyon, but kind of like a, what do you call it? Like a valley, but it
Yeah.
wasn't really that
Mhm.
huge. But it was big enough where there was like a little valley, a dip, and then it went up to a big hill, and there was like a walking path um on the top of the hill, which reminds me of Colorado because that's where we were
Oh.
lived together.
Oh.
Basically, I saw him walking past and I was like, oh, there he is. So I tried to get over there, but it was kind of like a far distance, but I got over there. I don't know how it was like I moved really fast or hovered or something. And then he walked by again just as I was getting over to the sidewalk. And I don't know. I think he saw me. I'm not sure, but he just kept walking and I like couldn't catch up.
Oh.
So like I need to let it go.
Yeah, yeah, I guess that's it. You said you were kind of obsessed about it. And
Yeah.
so then what was your emotion when you woke up from the dream? Was it kind of like, yes, like you saw him walk away and you felt a little peaceful about it?
I kind of wanted to go back in the dream and it was like
Oh.
obsessive. Like I was like,
Oh,
no, like,
well,
yeah.
you could go back in the dream because you could, in your active imagination, get a sense. Maybe he wants you to follow. Maybe he still represents something for you, but now it's positive, right? It was negative, and now maybe there's something someplace that he wants to lead you.
Mm,
Now that you've closed that door, there's
mm.
a path in front of you. I mean, that would be cool, active imagination.
That would be cool. And I've been wanting to do that too. So I'm
Oh,
gonna
well, then you should if you want to do it. I mean, I don't like an obsession isn't bad. Like an obsession is a way your unconscious is trying to help you out in some way. So obsessions sometimes can be grounding, like OCD behaviors serve a purpose. I remember one that I developed when I was still in the house, but I had to ask my former husband to leave because of alcoholism and everything was just falling apart. And suddenly my routine in the morning became very, very important to me. And
mm,
I found myself taking my time doing my hair and my makeup. And then I would like ritualistically clean off the porcelain sink and the fixtures. And I didn't know it at the time, but later on, that was my way of sort of like, at least I have control over this. This part of my life is clean. The rest of it is a mess. And I was having lots of dreams about toilets at the time. So like I realized that I was obsessed with like cleaning things down, but that sort of helped ground me during a really uncertain
I
time.
see that. That's a good
And then it
point.
went away. And then that sort of obsession
And
went
that's
away.
good too. Yeah. It's
Mhm.
like it came in naturally and then naturally,
Yep.
you know, we didn't try to hold on to that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think like I don't know, I think there's shame sometimes people are embarrassed by like their odd behaviors. But if they
Mm,
understand like the deeper meaning of the odd behavior, then they can develop a relationship with it and they don't
mm,
have to be controlled by it. They can go, oh, this odd behavior, like I want to do it a lot right now. So I must, I don't know that what's going on in my life that I'm attached to this particular behavior. So your obsession could be because there's still something to know.
yeah. That's
And maybe you are supposed to follow him.
mm,
Maybe.
interesting. Yeah. Thank you. So I have a question, or Alexis, did you have something that you wanted to share?
No, no.
Okay, so I had a question from one of our viewer or one of my friends viewers. So basically they mentioned that they have a lot of dreams, but rarely have sexual dreams. So I'm curious if there is a significance um like in how many sexual dreams you have. Because for me, I have a lot of sexual dreams.
And to
Um
bounce off of that, I
yeah.
have almost none. Like I can count on my hands how many I've had in my life.
Mm,
I mean, I don't know. I don't think there's really like an answer to that. If she or he is curious, you could ask, like,
mhm,
hey, I want to know what it's like to have a sexual dream.
yeah.
I don't know. So for some people, Our psyche is just always going to grab onto something to get our attention. So for some people, that might not work. And for other people, it just does. I mean, I had a whole series of penis dreams.
Wow.
And in the beginning, they were attached to a man, but by the end, it wasn't attached to a man. And I was like, and another one, I have my own. So now, like I said, sexual images are rarely about sex. So the phallus, the phallic symbol, is involved in creation, right? So, the creativity is happening in the womb, but the phallic symbol has something to do with it. So it's also a creative symbol. It can be a symbol of creativity. So
Mhm.
for me, I was coming into relationship with my own phallus, my own
I like
that,
that.
yeah. So,
You know, you know what I think about too. I don't know if you're familiar with tarot, but the
mhm,
wands too, at times,
mhm,
I mean, they're pretty phallic, and at times, like the very top of it just looks very
mhm.
nice. And so
Extra
when you,
phallic.
right, when you said that, I was literally thinking of, like you were saying, they represent a symbol of creation, and in tarot, wands is a symbol for the element of fire. So it's creative energy, passion, desires, action. And so that's where my mind went. And I was like, oh, it could be like a, symbolism for a wand, which is creative, and you use a wand to,
Absolutely.
work
Same
your,
thing, it brings form to the creation. And
yes,
that's the masculine. The masculine is like articulating and expressing the creation when it's ready to be expressed.
exactly. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
interesting, like knowing people who have a lot of sex dreams, knowing people who don't have really any sex dreams, and how that might correlate with the way that they're functioning day to day. And, what you mentioned was, attention. And it's like, yeah, some people, the sexual idea or the sexual activity within the dream space is a call for attention. And, even seeing that with people in my lives and how their relationship, even their relationship with sex in the waking space versus the sleeping space. And some people I know, sex is a crutch, so they have that
Mhm.
pleasurable dream to fulfill something within themselves that they don't necessarily know what to replace that with.
Mhm.
At least from who I've talked to. And but then on the other hand, like I don't really have sex dreams, and I feel like one, it could be for me personally, I don't have a strong attachment to sex. Like I have a weird relationship with sex. I even consider myself a little bit more on the asexual side. It's not really something I think about. Like, and the way that it's not, I don't want to say it's not important, but it's not a
But
red light in my
Yes.
ear,
uh, yeah, I was going to say, like, if you have more of maybe a more balanced, more neutral attitude about sex, right? So, sex is one of those things that, because for a lot of people, it's kind of repressed, it shows up as in extremes, extreme darkness and also extreme light the other way. So it could be that that person just doesn't have like any dramatic feelings about sexuality. It reminds me, this is what's coming up for me now, because this was another part of a really important part of my midlife reconstruction, was that I don't know if I talked about this last time. There was a time when I had started having a spontaneous fantasy, right? And so people think they create fantasies. That's not a fantasy. Then a fantasy is like the spontaneous image, and sometimes you're like, "No, go away! Why are you doing that to me?"
mm-hmm.
And my image, and so this is all in my memoir, but my boyfriend, who was away, I started having fantasies of being sexually submissive. So, and they were always like, and they were so like prevalent that I thought, okay, I better draw this. Like, I don't know what this means. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm in the middle of the day at work and I'm having this fantasy of being sexually submissive, saying, yes, sir. And I'm like, I mean, what is going on? Like, I didn't think I had a desire to really do that. Although a little later on, I sort of was like, oh, this is interesting. But so I literally Google, or I don't use Google anymore. I literally searched, how do you draw a naked man with an erect penis? And how do you draw a woman, like naked woman kneeling, looking up at the erect penis? And then when I drew it, I wrote receptive. And
Mm,
so it very much at the same time, I was having experiences in meditation where as I was combining meditation and prayer, it made me aroused. And the arousal was like very intense, and I had to bring myself to an orgasm. And I would also see these images of light coming in and out of my head, images of bowls and chalices that represent receptivity. And so at the time, it was, what that sexual imagery was about was number one, becoming intimate with the transcendent, because I felt a burden being lifted from my shoulders, that I wasn't alone, that I didn't have to figure out my life on my own. And that was very like a really intense relief. And that then I came into a deeper relationship with myself, capital S, which is the bridge to the transcendent. And so I write in my member, like, why wouldn't that be arousing to feel one, right? So, so for me, those are some sexual images that came up in dreams that had to do with me surrendering and being receptive to this myself,
mm,
as opposed to being so mind heavy, right? And having all these protective behaviors in the first, like I literally had to unravel in order to get into a deeper place in myself and then build that up, right? And then develop a trust for the universe, which can be very hard after you've like, no, I'm on my own in my life. I got to take care of myself. So that's what came up for me, are different ways that sexual imagery, and even in awake, even imagery while I'm meditating, which if is like a dream,
mhm.
those are dream images too. Fantasy images, you work the same way as dreams. So,
Yeah, it's interesting when you say that, when I think about, because there are two periods. So, let's say pretty much around the time that I was with my ex, but it was ending, which was 2018. I had devoted my life essentially to doing this work full time. Like, this is going to be my life. This is, just my spiritual practice, not even necessarily professional, but
mhm,
just, for me personally. But I also quit my job, and it was a whole thing. And I would wake up every day when I woke up, I would basically, have some fruit and some tea or coffee, or probably not coffee, because I would go into a deep meditation
mhm,
for an hour. And sometimes in those meditations, I would have astral sex, is what I called it,
mhm,
whether someone would come in or it would be just like my own self pleasure. And I wasn't really having sex during that time, which I'm sure
mhm.
also there was a lot going on with the ex. And
I
so,
wasn't either during
right.
this time.
And
Yeah.
so now, again, I'm in this big transition within my career and who I am, who I'm becoming, and I'm also not having sex. And I tend to have a lot of sexual dreams. So I definitely see like a pattern or a theme here for myself. Sex is definitely important. I would consider myself a sexual person. However, I don't need to always have physical sex. Like, it's like sometimes physical sex, like I'm someone who actually likes the anticipation when
Mhm.
it comes down to like finally doing it. It's great, but then also it just like, I like the tease, I like the seduction, I love all that
Yeah.
stuff. So
Yeah.
for me, it's not, it's not a big deal if I'm not having sex, but then I also really enjoy the pleasure of that. And so yeah, I don't know. So that's really interesting. I definitely agree that it's a case by case, I'm sure, basis, and how you personally relate to sex. And maybe there's not really like, a correlation of this means this if you have a lot of sex dreams or if you don't.
Yeah.
I would say though, this is something that, speaking of obsession, whenever I have lucid dreams, I generally, up until meeting Alexis, like a little over a year ago, I will generally summon someone in to have sex. Like I seek it out in lucid dreams. And I'm like, what is wrong with me? I mean, I've had lucid dream experiences where I literally have to fight back the desire to just make it a sex dream. And yeah, so I don't know if that says anything, but
Well, I mean, that is an energetic symbol for you.
yeah, I guess it's
I
important.
mean, don't just keep doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
like it. What I really like how you said you summon someone. Like,
Yeah.
go find me someone
Right.
acceptable.
It's
Go
like,
find someone's unacceptable. I need a body.
yeah. And it's like, it's funny because it's usually someone like a friend or someone I know, or like an ex-boyfriend or someone,
Oh.
or maybe someone I've wanted to hook up
Oh,
with. It's been a friend.
okay. Now we can go somewhere.
Oh,
Now we can go somewhere.
generally
Okay. So
it's a,
if it's somebody particular that you're like, who do I want? Who do I want to play with tonight? Then you can wonder about, again, what does that person represent for you that you're wanting to form a union with, that you're wanting to become intimate with?
okay. That makes
And if you know them, then the traits or the associations are parts of you that are familiar.
sense.
And so I wonder if, like, in your dream, you're able to express them where you can't yet, maybe in your waking life. So you could wonder about, well, when I think about this person, it's really this, like this part of them. Either I admire this or God, I wish I was like that, or that is cringy. But at the same time, I wonder. And so maybe those represent these just another aspect of you that wants to become intimate with you. Well, you're summoning them. So that's interesting because you're like, I mean, that's your unconscious saying, I want that. I want that.
I love that. That
But
makes
what is it that you want, right? Like, what is it?
always someone is always a friend, and female, male, doesn't matter.
Mhm.
It's like, yep, I want this person. We're gonna be at the beach. They're coming here or
Well,
wherever
and you have,
they're
you're on this journey of creative expression as I am. And there's a lot more that wants to come from you. So,
yeah.
yeah. Oh, I love it.
So you have a dream that you will possibly share with us. Do you want to share?
Sure. I mean, this isn't a this is an odd dream, actually. Okay. This is someone who showed up in my dream that's from my past, going back to like 1992 when I
Mm.
was in my 20s.
Oh,
And
nice.
I was a as I'm like being shy as if I'm a celebrity and this person's going to find out. But anyway, anyway, this is someone. I was a financial planner at the time, and this was someone who my first manager. Was and is very attractive because I ended up like looking him up and seeing what he looked like now. Because I was like, why did this person show up in my dream? He's never showed up in my dream before. So in the dream, he was there. I hadn't seen him in a while, and we were catching up. I was talking about John, that's my former husband, and getting divorced. I don't even remember this. I said something about John trying to get back into my life. We were sitting on a couch. A couch sometimes comes up in my dreams with some other people. Like there's like another man showed up and we're talking on the couch. Then I was taking a shower on the couch. So I'm literally standing on the couch. There's a shower curtain and I'm like taking a shower on the couch. There was a shower curtain. That I said that was weird. I don't know where I lived. There was a pile of gifts for me. I don't remember those either. I was energetic and happy. I threw my clothes off. Then this man got dressed and said he was going out of state for work and he'd be back on the weekend. I don't think we did anything sexual, but we might have hugged or something. I felt close and I was attracted to him. So I did like a lot of journaling about like,
Right.
what does he mean to me? And I and it was a time that I was very insecure. So like what was going on in my life at that way. So he was my first manager, my first job out of college. And I was very insecure, but I was also very brave. I was one woman in a new financial advisors of 14 men. Or 14 of us, I was the only woman. So I talked about that whole history. I also thought so I talked about being terrified and brave at the same time. Weird combination. He also sort of reminded me of my swept up lover, younger man lover that I talk about in my memoir. Um, and uh and he had this innocent confidence. So I ended up going all kinds of different places, but I think in the end, like, I decided that one thing he represented for me was financial success and financial independence, and that is a very particular thing I'm working on, because all my life I've been brave. I've started companies. I've published books. I successfully married for 24 years. I had 2 kids. Then I fell apart, and now I'm recreating myself, but I have never been completely independent. I've never lived alone until 5 years ago. So, like, I think there's something about him representing financial success. But you can see, like, how much writing I did and how I went all over the place. And also, I was attracted to him. Um, and that's weird, right? When you work with somebody and you're like just super attracted to one person. And so in the dream, it could be he's not an ex or anything, but he's just a man that I was attracted to. In the dream, he could represent this, like, this kind of the symbol for me being intimate then with my own potential for financial independence. And the shower, I don't know, symbol of, purification. He leaves, he's going to come back. So, I don't need him. I can do this on my own. I don't know. So
Really interesting. And you were showering while was he like just sitting on the couch? Like your impression
he
of
was
it?
just getting dressed to go away. He was like, no, I was just showering.
Yeah, that was the one thing that stood out to me too. The showering felt like cleansing, especially since it was kind of out of the ordinary. It definitely drew my attention. It's like, oh, why am I showering right here, right now? And it's like, yeah, it felt like a cleansing or like a setting from the old, separating the old.
Well, yeah, that's good actually, because I being attracted to someone also when you're with someone else, right? When I was married. And so, there might be some residue of, like, guilt about that. So this was before. And so this also leads me to something else that is important for people to know, because we don't really learn how to come into relationship with our sexuality as sexual beings in our society, right? And so when we're attracted to someone, it's not usually what we think it is. It doesn't necessarily mean like we want to have sex with them, but that's what we assume. So a lot of people, when they're attracted to someone that's not their partner, they will feel great guilt about it. When you didn't do that, it happened to you. You don't control whether you're attracted. You do control, like, how to think about it and how to feel about it. So the first time that I realized this concept was after I had gotten divorced, and I was just sitting at a bar with a friend catching up. That's all. Like, we were just chatting. I knew his wife. I helped him with his mayoral campaign. Like, we just were colleagues and friends, but we had really intense conversations about community and social justice. So we're having a conversation, and I had conversations with him that my husband wasn't interested in having, right? So I found other people, and I happen to really enjoy the intellectual company of men more than women. So I'm having this conversation, and I'm like getting so aroused. And in my head, I'm like, what's happening? As I'm like talking to him. I'm having a conversation in my head. I'm like, why am I aroused? And in my head, I'm going, but am I attracted to him? I'm like, I don't think so. So I imagine kissing him and I'm like, no, I'm not. Like literally I'm not. And I'm like, why am I so aroused right now? And it really was because like it was intellectually around, like that is definitely one of my major sex organ is my mind, is my intellect. And so then I started thinking about the different men that I was attracted to when I felt like, oh, this is a problem. Like I can't be attracted to this man. And there's another man in my life. And, you can't, like, the energy is there. And then other people have opinions about it and have assumptions about that. Right. And so it can be a relief to realize that in most cases, it's the sexual arousal has to do with being aroused about something, but it doesn't mean that's directly about sex because our sexuality and attraction is like this invitation from creative intelligence that wants to play with you, right? So I'm having a conversation with somebody and I'm aroused by the idea of social justice, right? And what that's me. I'm a weirdo that way. But or for somebody else it might be another topic, but that's creative intelligence, like saying, hey, there's something here, follow it. But that doesn't mean go have sex with them, but it means play with it. Like, what is it exactly? What do they represent for you? So
Yeah.
so that's like a fantasy, more like fantasy. It's not a dream image, but it's still like this little, it's a fantasy. So you can work it the same way as a dream image.
A good daydream.
Yeah. It's a daydream, right?
So guilty of this. And this is when astrology, I feel like astrology can be really helpful with this because I also get very stimulated by amazing conversations. And when I meet people, it could be a female, it could be a male energy, doesn't matter. But like I don't act on it with the girls, right? With women. But it's there and there's a really intense connection. And like I'll even fantasize about like hooking up with my friends. And at certain point, like all of my partners, anyone that I've dated, seriously, or it was a fling, like have always been a friend. Like for me, it's hard for me not to want to merge with that. Like my ex, him and I would, we would go to like this late night cafe where it was a bookstore. It was a used bookstore, but at night they would have music and then they would have wine and beer and stuff. So you can hang out like later at a bookshop. And him and I were like really into books and would read the same books. And so that's how we were really on. And once I actually got divorced because we worked together, we were friends. And so once my ex-husband had, left the picture, we started hanging out more like outside of work. And that's what we did. And it's like, how do I not merge with that? And I get really confused because most of the time my friends, like, it's so amazing that I want to sexually merge with that. And then 9 times out of 10, we're not meant to be in a relationship. And so maybe we do get in a relationship. And then 2 years later, it's like, I don't really, it's
well, the purpose of
fantasy comes, the veil clears and you're like, wait, okay, but you have trauma and and I do too. It doesn't work.
And also the purpose of every encounter isn't to be a relationship. Right? Like who told us we have to do it that way? That's what I love about the deconstruction of relationship now.
Yeah, it's so hard. I feel if people that speak astrology, my Venus and Mars are in Pisces, and Pisces is a sign that literally it's the sign of merging. It's a sign of coming back with source, with energy, with oneness. And so Venus and Mars are your love planets, essentially your relational planets. And so, yeah.
Well, no wonder you have to summon people to have sex in your dreams because you can't do it walking around in real life. So you've got to do it someplace.
It's crazy, but that made so much sense when you were saying like we weren't taught we don't talk about this. So this is really important because I'm like, yes, I understand that. And now actively, and I've seen my pattern as well. And it's like, you don't have to be in a relationship with everyone that, so wow. that landed. Any other dreams? Alexis, did you want to share something?
Yes. So I kind of want to bounce off of that because both of you talked about, people that you've worked with in the dream space, like worked in the relationship with you a bit in the dream space. And, and I kind of wanted to go, now just for context, I worked for a spinal surgeon. He was the worst. Couldn't stand him. He treated me like shit.
Oh.
Gave me an eating disorder, and
Oh.
and it was a whole thing. There was a whole, like, it was just a terrible environment.
Yeah.
But after I had left, I quit spontaneously. It was a big thing. I had a dream that I was in this white void almost, and it was kind of dark all around us, aside from the spotlight that was shining directly on us. And it was me and my naked boss. And my naked boss was kind of like, I don't know, like in this permanent. Now, he was like 6'2", but he was in this permanent fixture in my dream, naked, of being kind of bent over and almost sickly. And he kept trying to come on to me, and he kept trying to come on to me sexually. And I just was denying him and just saying, I don't want anything to do with this. I don't want anything to do with this. And we ended up getting in a car together, and he was still trying to pursue me again. I had to drive him somewhere. And after the last time of me saying, I don't want anything to do with this, he stopped talking to me sexually, and he started venting to me about his issues within his life, his with his wife, with his kids, with his business, with all this stuff. And so the rest of the drive was me kind of just like feeling this frustration of him wanting to use me sexually and then using me for, and I thought that was a really interesting thing, especially because it creeped me out. Like, he creeped me out, and to have him show up in my dream in that type of energy and environment, it made me feel so uncomfortable. And I don't know.
When did you have this dream?
It was shortly after I had left.
And how long ago was that?
I left in that was 2019. I left. It was Veterans Day. I left because my sister was away at boot camp, and my boss had said we could leave early, and I lived an hour away. And when I was almost home, he called me, and he was basically like, where the fuck are you? You need to be answering phones. And I was like, you said we could leave early. My sister's in the military. Like, it's Veterans Day. Like, you gave us the okay to leave. And he just kept cursing. And anyway, I was like, fuck you, and quit and whatever.
And you're curious about,
like, a couple months after that.
And you're curious about this dream now?
Yeah, I mean, because we're on the subject of being in a work environment with a person, and this was somebody who, I had briefly forgotten about the dream, and when we were talking and you both had brought up people that you had worked with being in your dream, this kind of sparked that dream to come to the surface. So it's not necessarily something that I have been thinking about a lot, but since it popped up, now I'm curious.
Well, so like back then, when you had that dream, like if you just had that dream, you said something very interesting. You said, he creeped me out. And the question I wanted to ask you then back then is, what about yourself or your life, like, creeped you out? Because he would represent, he's showing up in your dream to bring attention to a part of yourself. So, at that time, I'm sure you felt very differently about yourself at that time. So it's kind of hard to say, but it resolved itself. So
yes,
you had to come face to face with him. What's also interesting though, is that in the dream, you see something that you didn't realize. You come to understand that his outrageous, inappropriate behavior is like a symptom of his suffering.
Yes.
and that he didn't know, he was not conscious of what he was. I mean, well, first of all, men who do that know what they're doing. They just don't
Yeah.
know why. They don't know why, but they do
Right.
know. They do know, he does know what he did to you.
Oh yeah. And
Okay.
in the waking space, you know, when I did work for him, you know, he really did make me feel so uncomfortable, especially
Yeah.
because he, you know, if I'm gonna be honest, he's probably autistic and undiagnosed. He has terrible bedside manner. He makes incredibly inappropriate jokes. You know, he would, you know, yell up front at me and my coworker. We were medical receptionists, and he would yell up front for us to stop touching each other, and like, you know, talk to other doctors about like how he, you know, likes blonde strippers and stuff, and look at me and laugh, and just like really
Oh my
weird,
God.
but definitely closeted gay. I mean,
Yeah, that,
all
I mean,
it was a real, like, he definitely was causing his own suffering and
yeah,
then projecting it onto everyone. And I
yeah,
tend to be someone who thinks about like it's not an excuse, but I understand, like, I it's not an excuse what you're saying is you how to okay, hold on. It is not an excuse for me to understand why you're acting the way you are, but I do. I get it, but it's not an excuse.
I
But I
know.
do get it.
I have another question for you then, because that is a really interesting realization for you to have in that dream, to circle back to having compassion for this asshole. So, did you need to do that for yourself?
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure it's I mean, especially during that time period. I mean, again, I had quit my job. My sister was away at boot camp. She had so overwhelming for me. Thank goodness she got sick and came home. Um, like, she's fine now, but like
Yeah.
she it was 2019. She was in boot camp. She ended up getting COVID before they knew it was COVID, and it went through and like took it. It was bad,
Oh,
but
yeah.
but and I was living with my husband's parents, and that was a whole experience, and I
Yeah.
was feeling very trapped.
Mm.
And, you know, I think too, this dream, especially thinking about it now, kind of points to my boundaries or the lack thereof that I had with not just like my workplaces, because I got, you know, I would be very devoted when I worked. So I would endure a lot in order to, you know, continue on my relationships in my workplace.
I mean, I love, oh, I mean, there's a reason that you were curious about it today. And I love when you can go back and see, oh, like you can find more and more meaning. Yeah, the boundary is interesting because you successfully like reject him, but he still doesn't get, and then you like you drive him
Yeah,
someplace,
I'm doing a service for him. Right?
right?
It's not sexual, but I'm driving him and I'm acting as a therapist, listening to
Right,
him in this vulnerable state, you know,
right.
and being
Yes.
annoyed and uncomfortable and
Yeah,
just knowing that it's not okay for me, but still
yeah,
doing it anyway.
right, right. And now you got over that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely not super great with boundary setting.
Mm,
I still care very much about how people feel about me,
mm.
but I am significantly better than I was then.
You know, I think when things come up like this, I think it's almost like a spontaneous fantasy. And so your interest in revisiting this dream might mean there's still something new for you that that's something, it's forward looking, that something is going to come up that might remind you. You might have find yourself in a situation where you might have to remember that ickiness in order to be like, that's a hard no.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yes, reminding myself to hold boundaries where they need to
yeah.
be with
Because yes,
others.
because he's a symbol of creepy. And
Mhm.
I know creepy. I can smell it now. You
It's
you don't need proof. Like you can
no,
smell
yeah,
creepy. So you might find yourself in a situation where you would typically go like, what? Is he? Is he? But now you're like, oh no, no, I'm thinking about that dream. Nope, nope.
yeah, absolutely. And you know, that was a moment of me realizing that I give way too much and I receive not nearly as much.
Yeah.
I mean, I was driving an hour to that job and back. So 2 hours of driving a day for that job. I think I was only getting $14
To be
an hour.
abused and to be abused.
And to be abused. I mean, the way he treated us was so bad. And his morals and ethics. I mean, he would come in after doing surgery on someone that he thought was, or, you know, would say was overweight. And he would be like, "Oh, Alexis, you're eating again. I just worked on a fat pig. She reminded me of you." And just like, you know, this constant berating about eating because he had issues.
Were there, like, I don't understand why this person was even still allowed to have a license. Were there, I mean, wow.
I have no idea how he still has a license.
Yeah.
I have no idea. He's terrible.
I feel like we looked, didn't we
but-
look at the his practice to see if it was still going? Like just this year?
Yeah, it is.
I heard
It
of this
is.
all about this when we stayed at a yurt in January for my birthday.
Yes.
And so we were just like, what? This is crazy. And we like looked up his practice and he's still out of practice. And we're just like, but I mean, the reviews were awful. So,
yeah.
Wow.
Okay. So that was the top.
I feel like if he was, no, I was just going to say, I feel like honestly, if he had just kind of come out of the closet and admitted that he was gay, I almost feel like that would have cleared up a lot of his projection.
Oh, I'm sure.
Now I know that's my assumption of patterns and acknowledging how someone acts. I mean, I don't know many straight men who bring their little freaking dog in a Louis Vuitton bag anywhere. But again, I feel like a lot of that has to do with sexual. There's a lot.
Well, okay, we circled back around to sexuality.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Well, is there anything else y'all want to share before we close up?
No, I mean, we could have part 3.
I know there's so much. There's so much. There was like a tiny dream that I wanted to share, but I mean, I feel like we're probably good because I did share a dream earlier. So
yeah.
I know how to approach it. Thank you, Deb. I know how to unravel this dream. But yeah, this was amazing. And we're definitely going to have you on again after we read your book.
Oh, yay.
On your book, especially.
Oh, there's a lot of sex in there.
I am so excited to read this book because you're giving like little teasers here.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to it. So do you want to just share, you know, where we can find you and the links will be in the description?
Yeah. Too. I mean, everything about me is at deborahlukovich.com.
Okay.
And right up on the top are all the icons for my podcast, which is called Dose of Depth. And you can listen to it everywhere, Spotify, Google Play, whatever, everywhere you can listen to podcasts. My YouTube channel. So I'm doing shorter videos about dreams where I'm sort of demonstrating how to use depth psychology theory. Like we're doing today, we're talking about real dreams and sort of I'm sharing a little bit of theory. And so they're like 7 minutes long and some of them are quite crazy. Like my ex-husband was in one. We're walking down the street hand in hand. I'm like, oh my gosh, there he is again. And we've been divorced since 2016. So, and then I'm on Instagram.
Do you laugh now? Like, what's your response to these dreams? Like when he shows up now, is it like, do you still get annoyed or do you like?
No, I had a really interesting, I can't remember what meaning I brought to it, but it was good. It was positive. It's been like a long journey because I have 2 children. You know, we have 2 children together that are about to be 26 and 24. No, 25 and 27. I can't believe it. And, you know, he still struggles with alcoholism. So when you have addiction in the family, it's just like a permanent part of your family bond. Yeah. So, yeah. So sometimes it's funny and sometimes it's a reminder that I have like some anger to let go. So there's always like a lot of forgiveness and not holding on to things. And And also just appreciating all like now I look back at that 24 years of marriage and realize that I was able to do things that I wouldn't have been able to do without being married to him.
Yeah.
So
Right.
appreciating all of that. So anyway, and then I'm on Blue Sky and Instagram, and I write a lot of blog posts. I write about dreams. I incorporate writing about dreams, and some of my clients, I write about their dreams. So if you're into dreams, you can get that there too. And then yes, I think I'll be launching my memoir. I want to say in the month of October. So it's coming. 5 years it took me to write it. And yeah, I think a lot of people relate to the story. Anybody who's like having a little identity crisis or has fallen apart or had a rough breakup or has wounds related to sexuality and spirituality, the connection between the two of them. So there's lots of different reasons that people like the book. And I think it's a lot, there's a lot of funny stuff in it too, entertaining stuff. So
Awesome. Well, I can't wait.
yeah.
Everyone go check out Deb's website, and we'll definitely announce when her book has launched. And yeah, I'm sure you'll be back on.
Yeah.
Talking.
Yeah. Actually, I mean, one of the things that we could do is like I do integrate my dreams
Mhm.
and into the story because during a certain phase, it was a critical way for me to find meaning in what was happening to me. So I could even pick out like the different parts of the memoir where I integrate the dreams into the story because it's written like a novel. It's written like a movie.
Love
So,
that. My goodness.
so I mean, I think that's unique in my story is that the dreams are actually part of me telling the story.
Well,
So
yes,
maybe I could do that, pull those out when I could read some of it.
that'll be fun.
Yeah,
Awesome.
well,
That's so exciting.
yeah. So
Well,
thank
thanks again
you.
for being here.
Thank you
This was
so
great.
much.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. And we'll actually be back next week with a chat on Carl Jung. So that's going to be really exciting. But yeah, so stay tuned
My
for that.
man. He's my man.
Yes. And sweet dreams, everyone.
Sweet dreams.